Hi guys, welcome to this session in Microsoft Access. In this module, I want to show you how you can create a query that can be used over and over again. So first of all, I'm going to open a table, and that's the table that I'm going to use. So this one, address details. So I'm going to create this query based on this table. If I close that, so create on the ribbon, and then query design is what I'm going to use, not the wizard. And then you have the option of dragging the tables in here. I don't need the property window open or pane. I'm just going to drag that table in here. You can also drag it from this side. It doesn't matter which one you do. Both would work. Now I'll open up these fields so you can see them. If you want all the fields to come down into this query by example grid, the best thing to do is to just basically double click on the title, which will highlight all of these fields. Click and drag into the first column, and then you will have all the fields down. So first thing I want to do is show you how a normal query would work. So if I want to see everybody who lives in Leeds, and I want it to be a permanent thing, not just a filter, otherwise I would use a filter, you can type Leeds there on the criteria line and run the query, and that will show you everybody in Leeds. Now I'm going back into design for a second. The problem with that is I would save that and it would sit down here with the other objects, but then I would need one for Sheffield, Manchester, Bradford, wherever city I've got in my table. I would have to have a query that would be looking for the city, and that could then get this area cluttered very, very quickly. The query that I'm going to show you today is called a parameter query, and to activate a parameter query you need the square bracket, which is next to the letter P on your keyboard. Then you type a prompt for yourself. So in this case, it's going to be enter the city. And then you close the square bracket. And then when you run the query this time, it will ask you for the city. So I'll type Leeds in there and then click OK, and it shows me Leeds. Now I need to save this query this time. So I'll save this query. I'll call it QRY, which is the prefix for queries, and then just para so I know which one it is, and then OK. Now if I close that one, every time I run that query, it will ask me for the city. So now I'm going to type Bradford, and then it should show me people that live in Bradford. But I don't need to save this again, because if I close it, I can type whatever city I want. If I just run it or double click on it, I can type any city. So now I'm going to type Newcastle, and then you'll see that that will show me that there are no people living in Newcastle. Now if I look at the table just to double check that, there are no people in Newcastle. That's okay. I'll type Sunderland then. So I'll close that, run it again. This time I'll type Sunderland. And there's just one person living in Sunderland. I won't save it. Another feature you can do, if I look at the table and have a look at the date columns, you've got date columns there, date joins. You might want to run a query that gives you a date range. Now there is a feature called between and in Access. If I just do that one first, create query design, just add the table across, double click at the top, drag and drop all the fields, and then I'm going to date joined. Underneath date joined, now when you're typing in these boxes, sometimes it's quite hard to see, so you can use Shift F2, which will zoom up, and you'll better see what you can type or what you are typing. So if I go between, and then you have to type the first date. So I'm going for the 1st of the 1st 2000, and then and the 1st of the 1st 2010. So that's the criteria. Now I'd have to type that sort of criteria every single time. If I click OK to that and then just run that and see what comes up. So there's just one date that falls in between those two sets. I'm not going to save that. I'm going to go back into design, and I'm going to delete all that. because a better way of doing that and a more dynamic way than doing that would be to use a parameter query in there. So what you can do is use a parameter query. So down here, I'll do Shift F2 again to zoom up so you can see zoom. You type between and then open a square bracket and you type a prompt for yourself, which in this case is going to be enter the first date, close the square bracket, and then do and open the square bracket again and type enter the second date. Now you have to make sure that you don't use a field name inside of these square brackets, otherwise that won't work. So you just check that that's okay. Then you click OK to that. When you run this, it's going to ask you for the dates. So this time I'll go for the first of the first 10. Pressing enter, that's enter the first date. Pressing enter will bring up the other box. And then I'll go the first of the first 25. See how many that is. So that's quite a lot, all of those dates there. I'm going to save this as between, QRY between, because then what you would do, QRY between, close that, and you would base a report on that. So you just basically click on that one, you go to create, and then report. I'll just use the default report, which I don't particularly like, but you'll get the idea. It's asking me for the dates. So I'm going the first of the first 10, enter the first of the first 20, enter. So I shouldn't get as many, but I don't need to open the query. It should just drop that report in there for me. And there you go. Not as many, and the report needs some work on it. But I'll close the report. I don't want to save that. But every time I will save it actually. I'll just put RPT in front of it. So it's a report that's looking at that query called between. Clicking OK to that. Now every time I run that report, I don't need to open the query. It will just ask me for the dates, and then I can just type that in. So that's basically how a parameter query works. You can either do a parameter query on a single column, multiple columns, or you can embed it in between the between and and features to get the best of both worlds, which is what I do on most of my databases. So hopefully this little video has been of use. Thank you for your time, and I'll catch you on the next one.